own little world today, of, you know, like, I think ever since, gosh, I want to say ever since the election started, but no, it's been like an ongoing everything. Everything is just like one blow after the other, after the other, after the other, of trying to figure out how to navigate what is going on. And like, I knew that things were happening today that I just, so I've, you know, but I've seen people, I live right next door to a metro station, and I've seen, you know, every now and then I'll wake up and I'll go somewhere and you see these people with these signs, especially them, I don't know, just everything's weird. Everything's really weird. And anyways, that's okay. That's how I am. How are you? And it's like, you know, living here and having so many, you know, friends that are musicians and artists like myself, and then so many fans who actually actively work for the government. And because there's the clause in this country where if you work for the government, you can't speak out against the government, everything is just a shit show. But anyways. Yep. I'm wearing a Strategically Together We Rise t-shirt because I'm very, I don't know, maybe, is that better? Okay, cool. And you can hear me okay? Cool, okay, sweet. It's heartbreaking. I've been a bit of an ostrich today, I'm not gonna lie, because I knew that everything, you know, living here and being a musician here, that speaks out against, you know, racial inequality and speaks out against unfair, not even unfair, just the ridiculosity that has been like enveloping this country over the last 4 years, is, you know, it's really just rearing its head right now. And so I kind of made the active choice that I would kind of unplug a little bit today. But then of course you can't. If you're on social media, it's there. If you, like, my family from all over the country have been calling me. I've got friends that are calling me, making sure that I'm safe. And I no doubt have friends that are down there right now, anti-protesting, and so, or counter-protesting rather. And so I'm in this weird place of like, I want to do something, but if the last 4 years have shown anything, it's that you can't do something without a plan. You can't just let your emotions get yourself riled up, and say, F this, I'm gonna fight, when we've seen that it doesn't actually achieve anything except for killing people. There is a woman injured right now, I don't know how badly, but my heart breaks for her at the moment. Like, it's just so scary. Being a person of color from New Zealand, where, you know, Indigenous people are revered, it's like 2020 is just coming to like this, you know, this is the grand finale. Like, this is the time where we show up, and really make sure that we make the right freaking choices. We all know that police brutality is a thing. If you don't know that police brutality is a thing, you need to wake up. You know, the fact that this country, meaning the States, was founded on the oppression and the outright slavery of an entire people, as much as the Emancipation Proclamation came into effect, and as much as, the slave trade ended, whatever that means back in the 1800s, or, 1900s, 1967, I think it was, doesn't mean that we actually have, the fear of media. Like, the media still embraces the scary black man stereotype. And so it only makes sense that, of course, the police would be showing out against the Black Lives Matter movement, because the entire country believes that black lives aren't equal to other lives, specifically white lives. And we still live in this era where the black man is scary. So the fact that a white guy has a gun and is storming into the Capitol building isn't nearly as scary, because we've been sold this idea that white people are perfect, and that they're the freedom fighters, they're the justice warriors, right? And I say this to mean, like, of course I recognize that there are so many white people that are on the right side of this, but that doesn't take away from the fact that police brutality is still a huge issue here. And so, like, when the defund the police thing came about in the wake of George Floyd, for example, and the mixed messages about what defunding the police looks like, it's very much about instilling a process that New Zealand has, where we have more of a focus on mental health and more of a focus on social work, and making sure that that people have the bare minimum of what it means to survive, that entire black communities just don't have here, because the odds are stacked against them. So I don't know, that was a really roundabout answer to your question, but like, those are my thoughts on police brutality here. Like, it's frustrating and it's scary, because again, I grew up in Raglan and Hamilton, so like, my privilege as a person of color in America is very different, because I wasn't raised with the enormity of what it means to be a person of color here. It's mostly concentrated in the capital. So I live in northwest DC in an area called Fort Totten, which is about 2-3 miles away from where the Capitol building is. However, again, I'm right by the metro. So I've definitely heard yelling. I've definitely heard shouts. I've definitely seen that beautiful MAGA hat on, heading, from one train to another, as they, go and fight for whatever they're fighting for. I want to do more. I want to, my inner wahine toa wants to do more. But if anything, I've learned, especially in the United States, that with any action that you choose to make, or take rather, it needs to be with an actual plan in place. The best way to fight at the moment is not to go and counter protest against, really fired up guys with guns at the Capitol building. The best way that we can fight back at the moment is to make sure that we're registered to vote, have those conversations with those people that are in your family who are on the fence about whether they condone these acts of violence. The best ways to fight back are to write to your senators, write to your leaders, write to, people that can make policy change. That is the only way that we are going to really affect change. And for God's sakes, turn Trump off of Twitter. By elevating his voice further, you're just giving him a bigger platform to feel important and to keep spreading his ridiculous lies, his fabrications, his hateful rhetoric. It's not helpful. This is the time that being a superhero means being smart. Oh, I have no doubt that they are going to spread to a wider area. Absolutely no doubt. With the George Floyd, protests, it was very, it started in DC obviously, but it didn't start in DC, but a lot of it was centered around DC, and it's spread to other cities and things, and there are different subgroups of sub areas of communities and towns that were having the protests. But because DC is known as Chocolate City, which we have a very high black population here, I have no doubt that everybody in the city is going to be activated in some way, shape or form, and I know that it's going to spread out to cities like New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and things. Like, of course it is, because this is the year of revolution. What's that lyric? The revolution will be televised. That's what's happening here right now, is that we are on the brink of something that can be either traumatic and scary and dangerous, or we can be on, whatever it's going to look like. It's going to be very ugly. We're looking at it right now. So it is going to spread. The only thing that we can do is make sure that we have a plan and that we're safe. Right. It really, it's a complicated question, because the state of how everybody thinks depends not only on where they live, but also what they look like. Because, and I say that, again, this is going to sound kind of messed up, but being a black appearing person with a white sounding accent, everybody's like, oh, you're from New Zealand. Oh, I'd love to live to New Zealand. I'd love to go to New Zealand. And, that's, so their entire demeanor towards me changes as soon as they find out who I am or where I'm from. So that gives me access to different types of people. By and large, in the circles that I run, both as an activist and as a musician, a lot of the rhetoric that I'm hearing is very much focused on compassion and empathy, which is beautiful, and wanting to do something more to help and assist the fight inequality, and getting Trump out of the White House. But in saying that, I've also had conversations with, the poorer demographic of white person who still feels that Trump is going to help their situation, and is intimidated by the concept of somebody who doesn't look like them, talk like them, walk like them, to advocate for them on their behalf. Do you know what I mean? Like, so everything at the moment is very fear-based. A lot of the people in my circles, especially a lot of the musicians in my circles, are choosing to really activate with positivity and light, but a lot of it is coming from a place of shit. This is scary, and so it really depends on who you're asking. DC is a very democratic city. Iowa, where my family is on the cusp of both red and blue. And I've certainly had conversations with people who, just think that Trump has been the answer to their prayers. I'm not surprised at all. Of course it needed to happen. Just like 2020 needed to happen. It sucks, and it's and it's scary, and it's heartbreaking, and it's but it's inevitable. I mean, if you don't, what is that saying that you learn in high school of history that you don't learn from, or history that you forget is doomed to repeat itself. We have this idea that the whole Germany thing happened. We forget about it because that's never going to happen again, and here we are, 2021. Of course it's going to happen, because we forget, and we forget how powerful we are. It's like there is so much power to the vote. There is so much power in collective teamwork, together we rise. That's basically, like, we all know that, but we forget it. And so the minute you start disenfranchising these small communities, and taking away the knowledge that if they worked together, that they would be able to overcome this kind of stuff, of course this is going to happen. And I say that to mean, like, even the simple fact of, like, I'm a light-skinned black person here, and for many people that comes across as me being of a different status than a darker black-skinned person here. So that's like a very typical example of disenfranchisement of communities. Whereas we need to, like, this is the time to work together, and we can see that because all of Trump's followers are now working together, and this is the kind of shit that we're seeing. So yeah, I could see this happening, but I have faith that now is the time for us to rise up and lead this new movement of togetherness and love, and working together and making sure that everybody's voices are heard and counted and not discounted as fake news. So, two things. One is, I think coronavirus was the catalyst for this kind of action. I think if we all know that police brutality and police killings have been happening against black people for decades, centuries. We know this. But the fact that we were forced to stay home because of coronavirus and the pandemic and the quarantine, we had nothing else to do but to literally sit in front of our televisions and watch it. Right? So as a result, like that, I think in some ways the pandemic has almost helped enlighten some people and create change of a positive nature, in terms of, like, worry about people's health as they protest and counter-protest. I took part in the George Floyd protests a couple of times. I shot the music video for You Can't Control the Night down at the Black Lives Matter Plaza during the protests, and everybody was physically distant. Everybody was wearing a mask. There are very few cases of COVID that broke out as a result of that protest. I don't know what it's going to be like with this particular case, because a lot of Trump's followers don't believe in wearing masks and don't believe in physical distancing. So I'm a little concerned about how that's going to affect their communities. But I think, by and large, the act of protesting is a necessity if you're safe about it. I just don't know how this is going to play out, because I know that a lot of the Democrats, or a lot of Democratic voters rather, will be protesting with their safety precautions in place, and saying that the people that are storming into the Capitol they seem to have, I don't want to assume, but they seem to have very little regard for the safety of themselves or the people around them, and that's evident by the fact that people have been shot already today. Tension has definitely been rising between people, even to the point where you almost have, like, in this city in particular, like, there are two questions. There's one question that you would start with when you met somebody like 4 years ago, was like, "Hi, I'm Emma and I'm a musician. What do you do? Like, who are you? What do you do?" Here it's now, who are you? What do you do? And who do you vote for? And I think that has kind of, been exacerbated over the last few months in particular. However, in saying that, it's almost like you need to know who people are voting for, so that you know how to treat them. That sounds awful, but like, for example, if I'm talking to somebody who is a Trump supporter, and look, I've played plenty of gigs, outdoor, physically distant gigs recently, where there have been a number of Trump supporters in the audience. For when you know somebody's political affiliation, you know how to interact with them safely. Not everybody does that, however. So it's like the tension is almost something that you can choose for yourself or choose to let go of, depending on how you want to interact with one another. I think the tension more comes into play when you kind of assume that everybody's after hate or after, hurt. I think it's really important that we remember that nobody wakes up one day and thinks, today I'm going to be an asshole, right? Everybody's fighting for what they believe is right for themselves. It just happens that I believe, and it's evident today, of all days, that some of those beliefs have manifested themselves in a way that has actually hurt people in a really horrific and violent way. And that needs to stop. No, I just want to say thank you for the ongoing support of everybody back in New Zealand, for the things that are happening here in the States over the last 4 years in particular. As much as people have this idea that New Zealand is a small country on the other side of the world, and so what does it matter if people are protesting or people are showing up in solidarity? Please know that people here in the States are certainly watching and acknowledging and appreciating the amount of aroha that Aotearoa is sending us. I know that there's a huge community of New Zealanders here in DC who also feel that aroha, and I just please from this experience, or these experiences rather, take this as a reminder that no matter how small your country is, no matter how small or not even how small, but how insignificant you might think your experiences are, there's always an opportunity to take significant action and to lead the way and be the change and be the light and lead with love and be the example. If you didn't vote in the last election, please register to vote. If you didn't vote in your local elections, please register to vote and do that. We're all part of one big world, and we all affect each other. So thank you for continuing to spread love. Thank you for continuing to spread positivity, and thank you for continuing to show up for each other. That is the most important. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna my last name, I'll message it to you. It's do you need to say it online, like on air? Oh, that's fine, I can send it to you. Otherwise, you're welcome to use Emoji, but I'll send it to you because it's complicated. Thank you, Kristin. I will. The freedom fighters will not resist. We're here. We're here. Thanks, beautiful. Have a good one. Bye. Okay, so that was a quick interview with TV1 in New Zealand. Paige says, stay safe, serious, we're all historical, fucked up shit right now. Word. But, we're here. We're on the front lines. Everything's everything. Dwayne says, hi MG, look good as usual. P.S. It's Steve-O from Hams. Thanks, man. We can't hear the questions you're being asked. Yeah, I was trying to It'll be on the news tonight. Back in New Zealand, it was TV1. I was trying to paraphrase so that you guys could understand what I was saying, but sorry about that. I'm glad you're safe and okay. So scary what's happening there. Sending love. Thank you. Gonzalez says gorgeous. Kia kaha here for you. Thank you, Alia. Adar, blood will be spilled tonight, and that blood is on Trump's hands. Word, Adar. That's one of the reasons why I chose to stay home today. It's blood has already been spilled, man. Like, this is the time that we need to remember that, like, violence is not the way. Conversation, understand, and conversation for the purposes of listening to one another is the only way we're going to get through this. We can't continue to go along this rhetoric that fighting fire with fire is going to get anywhere. It's not going to get anywhere. We are I wish I had the answers. Kurt says respect. Thank you. Alan, you're here. Thank you. Adam says, so you're not a Trump supporter. No, I am not, Adam. If that wasn't clear on my music, then I need to be writing better music. No, definitely not a Trump supporter. Robin says, I don't know, Emma. I think some people do wake up thinking they will be assholes. Possibly. But I don't think they do it on purpose. I think it's I don't know. I refuse to think that anybody wakes up actually thinking that they're going to be assholes. I think that everybody's just trying to do what they think is best for their communities and themselves. Because we're all the heroes of our own journeys, right? We're all trying to make something of ourselves and, protect our families and our friends and our communities. So, I don't know, this is just me, like, spitting rhetoric. Of course, it's an ongoing dialogue and it's an ongoing conversation, but we need to make sure that those conversations are happening because we're listening to each other, as opposed to just spitting our ideas without that conversation. And I've tried actively to, engage in these conversations with people who don't necessarily see life the same way that I do, because I think it's important that if I show respect to their opinions and they show respect to mine, and then we can kind of come to an understanding. And that's why I decided that, that's why I've come to the idea that maybe, that nobody wakes up thinking that they're going to be an asshole. People have different priorities. I've certainly had a lot of conversations with Trump supporters who prioritize money and economics over people. And that's certainly not something that I agree with. But I don't know, it's so complicated. Either way, that was an interview with TV1. I don't know what time it'll be on. I'm guessing at 6 p.m. or whatever on the news, New Zealand time. And I also, where is it going with that? I've not gone out today because I know that things are dangerous and scary, especially for a black woman that looks like me. So, on that note, choose love today, guys. Choose love, choose compassion. If you saw my post earlier today, I'm going to read this out to you. Things you can do instead of engaging in active protest in dangerous situations. Reach out to those you love and tell them that you love them. Remind each other why they're important. Register to vote in your local elections. It's not just about voting every 4 years, but also in your local elections. That is powerful and can create positive change. Turn off the scare tactics of the news media. It'll only worry you, and instead plug into a podcast or something that feeds your mind and soul. I was gifted with a beautiful, I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but like a wristband the other day by a company that says, take 5 minutes out of your day to do something positive. So yeah, make sure you do that today, please. And please unfollow Trump on Twitter, and please take care of yourself. Okay? I love you guys. Be good, be safe, be kind, spread love like it's going out of fashion, be your own kind of superhero, and don't forget to be a superstar. Brush your teeth, whatever.